Even if you've got minimal motorcycle experience, I hope you find this adventure as entertaining to watch as I found it fun and fulfilling to complete in real life. Like many of you, I get a little anxious if I don't have some sort of exquisite plan in place for a trip, where to camp, which roads to ride, when I should be at each location, all that stuff.
No help, I got it.
I've only met you in person.
Down here from Edmond.
Nice to meet you. Thank you, Larry. I appreciate.
That said, in the day of Uber planned out, GPS enabled routes, I found that adventure rides, just like this one here, really helped me feel more confident to adapt to whatever situation is at hand, flying by the seat of my pants. At the end of the day, these adventures provide memories to look back at for a lifetime. Or at the very least, provide fodder for some stories to tell friends who will probably never believe any of this. Either way, sit back and come along on this very random adventure all across the Grand Canyon State. So the last trip I took out here to Arizona, where I had a motorcycle involved, it was super fun. We'd spent like 4 days filming mountain bikes down in Phoenix, which has great riding, and we had a great time in Phoenix getting that all done. But it was pretty cool to like turn the switch and get out of mountain bike mode and into something else that's really cool that I also like to combine with mountain biking. And I rented that Honda Africa Twin and went and did a few days on that thing and got in some hairy situations, but it worked out okay. I found myself thinking back to that trip quite a bit, and I really like trying out that different motorcycle. It's very fun trying different ones and not having to buy them. So this whole rent idea for different bikes, like, it's kind of appealing. I'm kind of into it. There's a big festival in Sedona.
Festival is definitely a thing.
And Industry 9 said, hey, we're gonna go have a booth at the Sedona Mountain Bike Fest. Are you gonna be there? Do you wanna link up and collab for anything? And so I had an idea to recycle the track stand challenge that we did at Jensen back at Sea Otter.
We're gonna do the track stand challenge.
And I was like, wait a second, what if we just change the whole program and instead leave the mountain bike at home, bring the running shoes. If you guys didn't know, I'm an active trail runner, and try renting a motorcycle. And then the cost isn't that much more than bringing a bike plus rental car. A good excuse to try something different. I'd always been curious about these bikes, KTM 1090Rs, because they're really cool looking on paper. I think they actually look amazing in real life. And they're really cheap. This guy bought this thing for like 9 grand. So I figured, why not just go ahead and rent one and try it out? But bright and early, Logan picked me up at home and gave me a ride to the airport. Thank you, Logan. Anyhow, there's a direct flight from Bellingham to Mesa. It's usually like $100 and change each direction. It's not that bad. Then it's like a $50 Uber ride up to Scottsdale to rent this thing. Unfortunately, this bike was basically brand new.
Basically set up with all my camping gear on it. It's always a fiasco to organize all your camping gear and all your stuff into a new to you motorcycle.
It had 638 miles. Like, I thought it was a trip odometer, and he's like, no, the bike's almost new.
No clue if this vest is actually safer, but it feels safer, and that's half the battle.
ABS on both ends seems to work.
I just went up Highway 87 to Payson, Arizona, which is like, Payson's a little bit southeast of Sedona. It's in the hills, maybe the kind of sort of mountains. There's pine trees around me a little bit. While heading up the freeway, I really wanted to go have lunch someplace scenic. And so I took a random turn when I got to the top of a hill.
I'll find a lunch spot.
This probably goes someplace scenic, and literally adventured my way up the ridge. And yeah, that wasn't like an amazing road or anything, but
This is so much better than a street bike out here.
eventually got to a wall of snow, so I had to turn around because I don't want to drop a brand new motorcycle trying to ride it in the snow. I was so lucky with the Africa Twin a few weeks ago that I don't want to push my luck at all with this thing.
All right, I think I will stop right here for a little lunch. I was super hoping to have lunch on the top of the mountain, but I ran into a lot of snow, and I didn't want to repeat of the last time I tried to climb a mountain and ran into lots of snow. And yes, this is a snow patch. Unfortunately, I did not grab any footage of where I turned around because the snow was so thick. These bikes are a lot of fun. They don't do great when you're riding through snow. Not at all.
Some of you have asked where I rent motorcycles like this. I use the website riders-share.com. Be careful with what you rent, but generally it's a decent way to try something new. It's a big bike. The weight's up pretty high with these panniers too, so It's like you can't really power slide it with confidence through turns, but you can still have a lot of fun with it.
While I'm a pretty competent dirt bike rider, I will not say that I'm a highly competent ADV bike rider. The mechanics of a motorcycle this big are very different from a dirt bike that weighs half as much. Part of why I like riding these bikes is simply the adventure of it, setting yourself a silly little goals or seeing something out in the distance and trying to find it, trying to get to it, and then live off the bike. It creates a bit of a challenge that I really enjoy, and it's more than just the mechanics of riding the darn machine.
So once I got to Payson, I was hoping to get some fuel for my camp stove because I wanted to have coffee tomorrow morning. I also wanted to have warm spaghetti for dinner tonight. Well, Walmart sold out of butane canisters, so I called Big Five. Oh, we've got them, but we're closed today because we didn't get enough employees that showed up at work. At one point at Walmart, someone that was definitely on some gnarly,
I got a boogie. Have a good one, man.
I don't know if it was meth or what, but yeah, he like came over and pulled the key out of the motorcycle, and I had to go ahead and put the key in and ride away mid-sentence before anything weird happened. He kept asking how much this motorcycle was worth. So I'm sorry, guy, I need to go. That was sketchy. Oh, geez.
With memories of the random druggie trying to steal my motorcycle still fresh in mind, I headed out to the woods to try to find a somewhat safe campsite. I didn't end up riding that far from town, but once I made it to dirt, I found a pretty cool little spot at a popular trailhead. There were a few other groups camped out near the proper trailhead, but I found this creek crossing that led to a road that I'll talk about more in just a moment, so I decided to go for it. When I'm by myself and I see a body of water, I usually get a little nervous. For this one, it didn't look like much, but the weird thing was I couldn't see the other side from where it started. And once I dropped into it and kind of got down it, it was too narrow for me to easily turn around a bike this big, and sure enough, it got a lot deeper.
Well, that got a little exciting.
Deep enough that none of the cars on the other side had really seemed to try to make it all the way across.
This looks like a pretty good campsite.
If you're an experienced motorcyclist, you've likely been here before. Flip your side stand down, ready to hop off this loaded 500-pound motorcycle. Then quickly find it falling over to the side, because the foot stand is not big enough to support the weight of the motorcycle in soft soil.
And then for the ride tomorrow, there, according to Google Maps, depending on when I look at it, the road behind me connects to quite a bit more north. I think in the morning we're gonna try to do this and see if it connects through. And if it doesn't, then we'll just turn around, come back and take the highway. With that, it's time for an early bed, and I will see you guys bright and early for a fun trail run in the morning. Good night, everyone.
Oh, just like that. It's morning time. Good morning, everyone. Oh, that was better sleep than last camp out. That's good. And then all of a sudden around 10:20, sounded like a ton of fireworks or someone was shooting or something. There's tons of pops. Oh, 10:20 to like 10:25. It was non-stop. Cup of coffee thanks to Barry down here from Edmonton, Alberta. Thank you, Barry.
You're welcome. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, good hanging out. Barry's here in the Mercedes and the bike, cruising around. Well, I should go for a quick trail run and then find my way to Sedona, so I'll see you guys in a bit.
Oh, what's up, guys? So, I've been drinking my electrolytes because it is super dry down here in Arizona. I'm not accustomed to this. I'm using these Element electrolytes. I've told you guys about them before. I really like them. Element's a very simple electrolyte mix. It's just potassium, magnesium, and sodium, a little bit of stevia extract, and that's really it. It's quite simple. And that really helps for me to keep me from getting dehydrated. I notice dehydration when I start to get kind of groggy. Mentally, my clarity is a lot sharper. I can focus better if I've, been hydrating correctly with a good amount of electrolyte. In case you're wondering, yes, I have Element electrolyte mix in here, and I'm definitely drinking this. Bottle 2 of the day. I'll probably have bottle 3 tonight at the campfire. Let's see if we can go find this state line. Let's pin it.
Freshly caffeinated with a handful of adventure on the line, it was time to twist it and find out if this road would indeed pop through to Sedona.
I'll cut right to the chase. Yes, it did pop through. I had a hunch it probably would, kind of guessing the amount of traffic it has probably seen. It was my first time really riding this bike somewhat off-road. It's pretty top heavy, and I'm not the best motorcyclist, so it's a lot for me to handle. And it's so tall, I can't hit the ground with my foot very well, so I've really got to have traction control off and have the throttle ready to pull me out of any tip-over situations.
The road started off light and fluffy with some pretty easy corners and kind of got up to some easier views. Then as it got a little bit higher up, there were a few little rock shelves, and then it got quite a bit rougher. At this point in the ride, I was still having PTSD flashbacks from riding my old V-Strom 1000, which is much more of a street bike than this KTM. The V-Strom could get through with all this as well, but it would be a much more challenging experience, and I would be smashing this skid plate onto a lot of these smaller rocks. Yeah, it was that bad. This KTM was a whole new world and a lot more fun than that old bike.
Ah, so much ground clearance.
Right after I crested over this hill, I got treated to one of the coolest surprises of the whole trip. If you look up just ahead, you can kind of see some critters making their way across the background there. Check that out.
Oh, elk! Wow. It's a big herd. Biggest I've ever seen.
That was the first herd of elk I've seen in Arizona. That was neat.
That road got a little more intense than I was expecting it to, but everything was all right. Just took it real mellow in the 1090.
The final bit of this road was definitely the most challenging. A lot of these boulders are about, basketball sized or so, but they're a lot less fun to play with. You're kind of smashing through with all that weight and not much traction.
Feels like a bottoming out. That's crazy. So I just came down from that way. Turns out it does connect from the campsite. Now I'm gonna hit the highway for a little while. Got a lot of snow up here. I'm surprised it's this snowy.
I kept going up because I wanted to take these back roads that drop down to Sedona, but once I kept going up and up and up, I made it up to 7,500 feet, and the snow was almost waist deep in places.
After completing the turnaround of shame, it was time to find an alternate route to get to Sedona. This is super high altitude, so while there's not that much snow on the ground per se, it's definitely cold, and the wind picked up in a big way. Oh, what's this? Is this a secret alternate route to Sedona? It might be. Let's try it. Having been here, I can certainly guarantee you this is not the alternate secret route to Sedona.
Oh, and this is a dead end. Perfect.
These sweet drone shots are kind of cool, but I'm going too fast for the drone here, and you get to witness something I have to do way too often when I fly with this thing, and that's pull over and look for a lost drone. Yep, true story. After reuniting with my airborne associate, it was time to get back on the road and hopefully to the Sedona Mountain Bike Festival in time for the end of the afternoon. Now this right here is the top secret dusty alternate route to Sedona. The car in front of me might not see that I'm behind them, but here they are cruising at 40 when I could be going a solid 20 more, so goodbye guys, I will see you at the festival. This route was really fun and I couldn't believe I hadn't found it yet, but it's a cool little connector. I'm actually able to read just about every single comment that hits my YouTube channel. Now recently, right before this ride, I'd read a comment that there's no point in an ADV adventure style motorcycle because street bikes can handle quite a few of these gravel roads. Yes, they can. They can cruise at about half the speed of an adventure bike, but yes, they can handle it. That said, I have a lot more fun on an ADV bike. With storm clouds quickly rolling into the horizon, it was time to make it to the actual Sedona Red Rocks. Yeah, these things are beautiful, and somehow whenever there's a mountain bike festival, it's guaranteed there will be foul weather. When I filmed this, there was a ton of rain and some very light hail, but this past year, there was actually a ton of snow to the point that I never even got to ride my bike once because the snow was so deep.
Yeah, I gotta stop by the Industry 9 booth real quick. You should be right up there.
Yes, indeed, I'm quite a squid on two wheels. I'm not much of a boozer myself, but I did have a little meet and greet at a local pub, and a handful of folks showed up to that, and it was super fun hanging with everyone there. But it was definitely harrowing riding home in the dark with all that water on the ground. The next couple days at the festival were all pretty similar. I was hanging out at the Industry 9 booth, and I was spending the night at Hardtail Steve's house. He's a good friend of mine, and he has a rippin' YouTube channel called Hardtail Party.
It's a party, as long as you don't have a shock, and you're invited. That's his tagline, if I'm not mistaken. Anyhow, here's a lesson in how to sneak your motorcycle into a venue. You just say a few nonsense things, watch someone point, and then you just point, and then next move is to just go.
No, not past that.
Yep. Nod. Yep, and go. Coming into this trip, I wasn't sure what I was going to do after the festival was over. I had a handful of days with the motorcycle rented and no real plans on the docket, so I wanted to do something kind of cool. I had the thought about maybe, just maybe, trying to cross the entire state of Arizona along the Mexican border. A friend of mine was telling me about some of the cool roads that he had ridden and recommended quite a few of them, so I decided to just buck up, go ahead, head south, and see if I couldn't just cross the entire state on my own, more or less guessing where to go.
All right, we're hitting 188 south from Payson in order to skip the Phoenix metro area. A little bit more 2-lane road rather than 4-lane interstate. So let's see what we end up finding down here. I think there's a cool lake.
I'm not a huge fan of riding tarmac. That said, it was really cool to check out this lake, and it was time to make some distance. We've got places to go, folks. Let's get there.
Today I wanted to cross basically the state of Arizona, and my goal is to make it to New Mexico, which should just be right over there, I think. Right over there is probably something like 100 miles away, but I think we can get there. And then I want to touch New Mexico, and then I want to start heading west into the sunset. I'm kind of doing this backwards, but there's a reason. So I'll be heading west, and I thought it would be really cool to try to get close to the Mexico border.
There's a bunch of unexploded shells right here on the ground. I'm not taking those home to my daughter. One thing that might not be super apparent is that this corner of Arizona State has pretty high elevation on tap. With a low temperature for the night forecasted at about 22 degrees, it was important that I find a place that wasn't too high in elevation to spend the night. I also had to find the state line, so it was time to boogie on and get going. Move these cow pies out of the way. Okay. The trip is officially into the adventure aspect of everything. The Sedona Mountain Bike Festival went great, but this is the part of the trip that I've been really looking forward to because this is a little bit more extreme side of things. Today I had to commute across the state, and it was pretty cool. The ride was not crazy remarkable. I had to backtrack through Payson, and I kind of headed out towards eastern and southeastern Arizona by going that route rather than through downtown Phoenix, just because, come on, Phoenix is Phoenix. It's nasty. There's cement trucks everywhere. There's pavement. I don't want to sit in traffic. I want to see trees and new things. You'll notice how in this clip, I've got a mirror on the left side of the motorcycle. Then in this clip, you'll notice there is no more mirror on that left side of the motorcycle. Yeah, it just randomly fell off on that there bumpy paved road. Great.
Here we go. The Arizona state line, right behind me is New Mexico. Let's go that way as far as we can before we got to return the motorcycle.
It was getting to be time to find a place to spend the night. Now, if you look out at this horizon here, there's not much to provide shelter from any kind of wind or anything like that. Nor are there very many cuddy little spots. The first thing I saw was this random road here, which I couldn't tell if it was private or public or what. So let's check it out. It's a private ranch on federally owned land. So you have to write your name in a guest book or whatever, but it's legal to be here. So that's pretty cool. I don't need to be too concerned about much. There are cows walking all around here, so I might see cows in the morning. That could definitely happen. It's much easier to camp in the forest than here in the desert. It's just there's no trees. I gotta find a place that's protected from the wind. Tonight's low is forecasted at 22 degrees. So I'm a little concerned about that. That's a little bit sketchy. My bag's pretty old, not that warm anymore, so I might be tired in the morning. The main road ended at the farmhouse, and I decided to not be that guy trying to camp right in front of someone's house. So it was time to go find someplace a little bit more off the beaten path.
So I think I might have just found a good campsite for the night. I'm wondering if I could put my tent somewhere where it's gonna be a little bit lower and more out of the wind. Super rocky dirt, so it's gonna be a little rough tonight. That's okay, because this is what we found. It'd be really cool to camp in the river bed because it's all sand and soft and flat. But I don't know how to get down there. Did not see a route to leave the bike and hike everything down, and that's clunky.
I
found a spot up on the ridge, started to get the tent out, and it kept catching the wind, and it was a disaster, so I hiked down into this creek bed to set up my tent.
First step, make a little bit of noodles. Then I'm gonna add some beef pot roast. And then I'm gonna add some avocado. That'll be dinner. I added a little bit of spinach to make this somewhat more healthy and refreshing than just straight sodium and MSG.
I had my headlamp on and I looked up and I saw two eyes staring at me, reflecting the light so brightly.
Yes, there's cow pies all around here. The attempted tent setup. Everything's pulled super tight, pounded in all the stakes a little bit extra. Hoping I do not get kept awake by the rustling tent walls in the wind.
And now it is time to get some rest. Good night, toodaloo.
That was some of the best camping sleep I've had in a long time. That was cool. And that worked like a treat. Tent's right down there. Making some coffee. The little road over here is right there. So I'm kind of out of sight, out of mind. Not bad. Let's go break down camp.
So this is what we're dealing with in the desert. It's hard to see because the camera can't focus on this, but these spikes, here is my hand for reference. Those spikes are absolutely gnarly.
So I'd ridden the moto just down a little bit from the main road just to get it out of sight, out of mind.
Okay, so I gotta get this thing up through this little baby head section. This is a heavy motorcycle. I've got some of my gear up top, so it's as light as possible, but this is like basketball chunky rocks. Try to film this, get the bike idling and warm it up so it doesn't die on me.
So I turn off traction control and put it into the off-road mode.
All right guys, here we go. Time to get aggro.
I've ridden plenty of stuff like that before in the past on dirt bikes, so it's time to get out of there. Had to just do my best to balance. And I droned this and put up the cameras because I knew it was gonna be hard. And I'm getting through it and it's going pretty well, and like it's kind of picking my lines for me. Lines for me, but whatever, I'm getting through it just fine. And then very top of the hill, I can like see where the road is, and I come to a halt. I'm like, okay, no big deal, let's just give it some gas and get right over this. It's too late and I'm already tipping over, and I get my foot out, but it's not enough because it's such a tall bike. Down we went onto the left side, and I was so bummed.
Oh my goodness, I'm so lucky.
And then I try a second time, give it even more gas.
I'm stuck on this rock, and
the same thing happens again.
I didn't see that thing.
Great, so I'm in 250 bucks at this point to buy this guy a new set of panniers. I want these panniers at least though.
Did not want to tip this thing over. That rock is just right under the rear wheel.
Roost on out of there, and I'm starting to feel better on this bike, but still it's very top heavy. You can't really power slide it through turns like you can like a dirt bike or whatever. You start to slide a little bit and then it has a mind of its own and it decides what it's gonna do. So yeah, not fully loaded. This thing's super fun, but loaded, it's still enjoyable, but it's not like dirt bike style. If that was my personal motorcycle that tipped over and crunched a pannier, it wouldn't have been a big deal. But because this is a loaner bike, rented, I had to put down a significant amount of money, I think $2,000 as a deposit. And that was also the deductible for my insurance policy through the same app I rented the motorcycle through. Some people, when they see cracks and scratches and things like the pannier, they freak out and think everything needs replaced. However, on my personal bike, I definitely don't mind a few little racing stripes here and there. At this point, I didn't know how it was going to go, so I was a little bit nervous about returning the bike in a couple of days. Here at Border Mart, this was the closest I ever got to the Mexican border at less than a quarter mile. I'd heard about this town, Bisbee, Arizona, so I decided to go check it out. And first I got to this town of Lowell, where the Bisbee Breakfast Club was, and I'd heard that was a great place to eat, so I stopped and ate proper breakfast there. And the mine shaft, there's like a quarry there in the middle of Lowell. It's insanely deep. I don't even know what they were mining there, but this quarry was cool looking.
popping into this little backcountry zone was pretty cool. Oh man, I've been through so much backcountry today, it's hard to even remember which section was which. It's a national monument, so it's like pretty formal looking, and there's all these rules and regulations posted, and I'm thinking to myself, this is probably just a facade. I bet pretty soon this is going to turn into actual rural America, or Mexico, depending on how you look at it. And sure enough, pavement ends, and there we go. Beautiful view from top of the saddle. Drop down into the valley, and it's going to be a long ways to cross this valley, a good 30 miles or something. But yeah, the road was in pretty darn good shape. A few washboard sections, which this bike does pretty well on, way better than my old one.
30 miles away in either direction from the nearest services means this is indeed a pretty remote part of the country. While the riding's not super extreme, just being here is absolutely amazing. This is such cool terrain for Arizona too. The endless oak trees, the dry grass prairies. It's pretty beautiful countryside. I can't imagine what it would look like in the springtime with all the rain hitting, but then again, this might actually be the springtime, so I don't know if this stuff ever turns green. I'd like to ask you all a quick question. I can't tell if these time-lapse GoPro shots of the ride route are actually interesting or not, so feel free to give me your feedback down in the comments below. It only helps make the next video better.
The roads were mellow, they were fine, you know, on a bike like this, just cruising along, plenty of third, sometimes even fourth gear sections. I would have long stretches where it felt totally appropriate to go 65 miles an hour, and then there'd be tight corners where I'd be going 15 or 25. So it was never tight or technical, but it was always more fun than just straight pavement.
One of my favorite parts of traveling by motorcycle like this is that you feel much more immersed in your environment than if you're in an airplane or in a car or on a train or whatnot. It's a very freeing experience to look out and see a ridgeline, look at your map, see if your road goes there, and if it doesn't, pick a road that does go there. And that's how you find really cool stuff that you wouldn't otherwise.
It's getting a little bit warm out here. I'm gonna ditch my safety vest because it is blocking the vents.
At the very end of that section, I didn't know it was the end. I pulled over to look at the map, and then a dude rides up on a KTM 990. This guy Larry.
I had a freaking deer jump out in front of us and hit a deer, so it slid on the side and got scratched up.
Were you okay?
Fun.
Yeah, were you okay when you hit the deer?
It knocked the crap out of me. Yeah. I kind of have by where you're going when you get up kind of closer to Arivaca.
Nice to meet you. Thank you, Larry. I appreciate it.
Good luck, man.
Yeah, well,
We start chatting for a bit, and he gives me pointers on a better road to take to skip going through Nogales, Arizona. Because even though Nogales is a border town and all that would be cool to see, it's once again out of the way. So he showed me this cool river road bypass. I gassed up, had a snack. From Nogales, basically west, there's a sign at the beginning that was a little intense. I also saw some kids on bikes on a bike tour. I wonder how far they got. I was kind of hoping I'd be able to like hang out with them at a campsite somewhere, but I think I've probably made more progress on the moto getting through all that today, and they're probably going to take 2 or 3 days or whatever. So seeing those signs about how the border is kind of a dangerous place and people are like literally running for their lives across it, I was feeling pretty thankful that I have the opportunity to be here right now on this side of the fence on a work day on this motorcycle, cruising along and just kind of having the time of my life, just exploring. I felt very fortunate, very lucky. A lot of factors that I had no control over. You can't pick where you're born or whatnot, and people that are coming across the border, that's really like, if they're trying to make a break for it, that's their best option, and life has handed them some pretty rough cards. A lot of folks in Central and Latin America absolutely love their countries and love where they live and have zero inclination of ever coming to the United States. And then there's those that they have no other options, and that's what they have to do. So I was just feeling thankful that, you know, at this point in time, I'm not running from a government, I'm not running from a cartel or anything, that, you know, able to enjoy life, and that's pretty special. So my sister is a professor at Western Washington University, and she asked me to give a presentation to her class about screenwriting for YouTube. But I noticed there was cell service on the top of one of these hills. I kept checking the phone, and finally
I see 1 bar a cell service.
So we got 1 bar LTE right back up there. I gotta make a presentation at Western Washington University for my sister's class. So I gotta find probably at least 2 bars. I saw a little offshoot road up the knoll. That might have a chance to get 1 more cell service.
Shoot up the hill with some unmarked side trail.
I can see you, and the audio.
Got set up and made the Zoom call and had to reconnect like 4 times, but these kids were cool and gave them a little 15-minute chat about what screenwriting is in the age of YouTube and how to turn a screenwriting degree into something that can actually like incorporate that and make a little bit of money maybe. When the sun is like at sunset and I'm heading to the west, it's right in my eyes. So I wish I had one of those dorky adventure helmets with a big old visor, because that would have been so nice for riding into the sunset.
So I'm thinking this right here would make a pretty good campsite. I hope no one comes in here following my track. But I got a little bit of a wind buffer over there. If it gets terrible, I can move. But now it's nice and still. It's flat, soft. Quickly get that tent set up because the sun is setting and temperatures are going to drop fast.
So I've been using these new Alpine Star boots, and they rub on my leg a little bit. Got a hole in my leg from those dang boots. Yeah, kind of gross. Sorry, guys. Just a warning. Yeah. Only on that side, though.
All right, guys. Well, with that, I should probably get in my tent and stop being outside with lights. So I'll see you guys in the morning. Good night.
Good morning, guys. I woke up middle of the early hours of the morning. Haven't really fallen asleep too well since. Oh, it's cold. I don't want to get out of my sleeping bag.
So I gotta try to finish up my breakfast here. It's just after 7 o'clock in the morning. I'm gonna try to make it to the town of Ajo. It's like 2¼ hours away. And then I can get a permit to ride Camino del Diablo, which is a 130-mile route to the border. I don't know if I can get a permit. I don't know if I can do 130 miles all on dirt without any problems. And then that's still 3½ hours from where I'm gonna return the motorcycle in Phoenix tomorrow morning. So, yeah. Now if Camino del Diablo is, as they say, like a 50-mile-an-hour graded construction road, then I've got a chance of doing this. If it's not, I might have to turn around and come out of there. So, some unknowns. This is the first time I've got a hotel room while on a moto trip since 2011. So that's kind of cool. Today's ride was all the adventure I wanted and then some. Holy cow. This morning, I rallied out of camp. You know, I was out of there before like 7:30 in the morning, pretty early. And I was like, oh cool, I'll throw my little drone up and follow myself roosting out of here because the terrain was amazing. It was this hard-packed dirt with some soft sand here and there. On the huge adventure bike, it was pretty easy to like start throwing it into some corners. I don't feel all that confident with how top heavy this bike is with all my stuff and those big panniers to really like throw it and power slide it through turns. It's not a dirt bike, but I was having a blast rallying out of here, and the Skydio, like I went off this little water bar thing and the Skydio all of a sudden decided to go off on its own adventure.
So when I walked that way, it got disconnected and it was looking for the drone. I walk this way and it connects. So the drone's somewhere this way. I should be looking up. This thing might be in a tree, as well as looking down because it might be on the ground. We're doing better. Or somewhere over here. Oh, there we are. So it just went ahead and landed itself in these bushes right here. Broke 3 propellers. Good job, Skydio.
I guess I outrode it. I went like 37 miles per hour and the drone's top speed is 36. Usually you can get away with like a few mile an hour too fast because it still sees you. This is a totally open area, but I guess it lost me and I have my beacon and everything.
No more Skydio on this trip.
Once I got home from the trip, I actually called Skydio and asked if I could get some kind of a crash replacement deal since the drone crashed itself, but unfortunately they said absolutely no. Once I got that all taken care of, it was a little bit of highway riding to get to Y, where I got gas, thinking that it would be the last town or whatever. And it's a cool gas station with this really neat fountain built out of an old truck. One of the coolest fountains I've ever seen, to be honest. I knew that I had to go get a permit to ride the trail that I really wanted to do to get to the California border. So here we go, over to the Camino del Diablo. You need to get a permit. So I went down to the National Wildlife Refuge office where you get the permit, and they're closed because of coronavirus. So they had some instructional materials, and apparently you can go onto the website and download a permit to your phone after watching a video. So I went and tried to do that. It wasn't working on my iPhone 12 mini, so I had to come and find some Wi-Fi. And then luckily I brought my old phone, a 10XS Max, this huge thing with me. And that was big enough to actually get in and sign the documentation and all that. So I have a permit downloaded to both my phones. The main reason you have to sign a waiver is because this route passes through an active bombing range. It goes past an Air Force base where they're actively practicing how to use their bombs, missiles, and guns. So yes, don't touch the bombs. So they make you watch a video about not tampering with unexploded ordinances. So don't play with the bombs you see. And then this road is 130 miles, and a lot of the off-road guys say it takes 1 to 2 days to complete. Bike touring folks say like 3 to 4 days. I didn't know what to expect. I got on the trail around 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm thinking to myself, I need to hustle. I've got 130 miles to go, and I've got to cover a lot of distance. So I just kind of got on the gas. So I did not want to flat my back tire in particular, because it's a huge thing. It would be really hard to pop off the bead. And I bought a tire plug kit, so I'd have that with me, and I've got an air compressor. And I've got a front tube, which I don't know if it would work that good in back, but it would maybe work, so whatever. You can't worry too much about this stuff. Sometimes you just have to live.
So this road's been super fun so far. I'm nervous about getting a flat tire, so I'm not leaning into things super hard, not power sliding a lot. Like I have a small little floaty drift, but nothing big. There's a few sections of rocks, like really rigidly stuck in the roadbed. Those are what I'm nervous about.
I started having fun and just getting out there, and then I would keep seeing more and more of the Customs and Border Patrol vehicles, and they're usually in a hot hurry. And then I started seeing a ton of construction vehicles, tons of them. And the road was like, at first, very wide and easy, and it was no problem to go, upper 50s, 60 miles an hour, no big deal. And then after a while, it got quite a bit smaller. Maybe 25 to 30 miles an hour. And then I came up on a whole bunch of construction trucks, like gravel trucks, bringing supplies to the border wall. And man, I could have jumped right in front of them and cut them all off, and I just wanted to make sure which way I was going was correct, so I stopped and looked. And I let them go in front, because I didn't know what was going on. And then I'm riding behind them like 15 minutes, and they're going 10 miles per hour. In sections where I would probably be doing 40, which was pretty frustrating. And then I saw the Customs and Border Patrol guys, and they passed the trucks by popping up into the desert and driving across the desert, which is so illegal and so not kosher. But I've been waiting for so long to pass these guys, and they were not moving, and they were going so slow, so I just gave up and did the same thing and just popped around them real quick. It's 130 miles, and there's probably 200 yards of my track in the desert next to everybody else's track, so what can you do? Generally, I didn't have to even use my navigation because the road was pretty obvious which one it was. And the road wasn't too hard until we got to the sand sections. And I really like riding sand. Some of my best hare scramble results are from the East Street motocross track back in Sacramento, California. Total sand track. I used to mostly ride moto when it was raining because I would go to the local sand track and then just pump out on the rut track or on the sand dune track, pump out laps in the sand because I love riding wet sand. Well, today it was like beach sand, like pretty soft and very dry. And then this bike is so heavy, it starts to like lean, and then the whole thing just starts to go. Here's a great example of almost crashing. This probably happened a good half dozen times.
Pretty difficult. Very loose, very soft, and this motorcycle is very top heavy. So I'm just trying to lean it without turning the handlebars when I get to the turns. And then it slides, and I gotta use the throttle to power through. I remember sitting on the back of the saddle, and just powering through the sand on the sand track previously, but I don't want to sit down on this thing because I lose a lot of control. Back to some harder stuff, thank goodness.
At one point, I saw a truck camper in the distance, and I thought they were parked. I think they were, and then they pulled out basically in front of me. I don't think they could see me or my dust cloud, because it was the sandy section, and I couldn't go super fast. But they were going, again, like 10 miles an hour, and I would be going like at least 30 through most of this stuff. So I'm sitting here like watching the sun get lower and lower, and then the hatch on the side of their camper swings open, and their dog bowl falls out, and I couldn't see if more stuff was falling out, because I kept flashing the brights and honking and revving my engine to like get them to pull over. And then there's a truck in front of them, some fancy earth roamer thing, and they get to a creek crossing, a wash crossing, and all of a sudden they both stop. And I pop out to the left to finally get around them, but the sand is so soft I can't stop because I won't be able to get going again. So I just gave her the beans to try to keep momentum up, and I'm like full throttle on this 140 horsepower motorcycle, full throttle in first gear, trying to claw my way through the sand wash because it's like deep beach sand. And these guys are looking at me like I'm crazy, and I'm just like kind of swapping a little bit, doing all I can to try to get traction. And if I stop, the thing's gonna sink, and it's gonna be a huge disaster to get it back into motion. So I can't afford to stop. So I wasn't able to alert them to their opening hatch or whatever.
I'm officially out here. Barbecue. So, end of the trail is in 49 miles that way. It's a ways. Gonna have a little snack and drink some water and get back out there. It's been a super fun ride. A little puckering with the sand, but yeah, I feel like I can pull this off. I'm still nervous about tires and everything, but just take it easy. In case you're wondering, yes, I have Element electrolyte mix in here, and I'm definitely drinking this right here, right now.
Shortly after that, the road got completely wide open, like freeway interstate width, built for dump trucks to go down to the border wall. Sign said, not a public road, don't go down to the border wall, don't check it out. Would have been cool to see it, but whatever. Through the Army base, it was very high speed, very sandy, and I couldn't believe it. I was doing it. 130 miles on dirt, probably 40 miles of that are just like on beach sand. And it ended up being like 3.5 hours, and I was through it. I couldn't believe it. I had done it.
So right behind me is the 8 freeway running from Phoenix to Los Angeles. So yes, I made it to the end of Camino del Diablo. Quick snack, and then I gotta try to make it to the California border before sundown. Time's getting tight. But I think I can make it partially back to Phoenix tonight on the freeway, just chilling. So without any more ado, let's get motoring.
And right here, I'll transition from dirt to pavement for the last time on this trip. Let's head over to the California border in Yuma, Arizona.
There's a bridge over the Colorado River there where there's a state line. So I rode over that bridge just to be in California, and I really wanted to take a picture of a California, welcome to California sign. But where I ran over the bridge on that little thing, it goes to a reservation which does not have a welcome to California sign.
So this bridge separates California from Arizona. Right now I'm on the California side. Once I get over that water, the Colorado River, I will be on the Arizona side. So I've made it.
I finally saw a welcome to Arizona sign, but it was so far from where I was you couldn't quite see it. And I didn't want to go miles and miles and miles further into California just to come back in. I made it to California. I did it. And it felt pretty cool to have set such a ridiculous challenge and have actually pulled it off. And then at that point, it was time to start heading east with the sun to my back. So I had about an hour of evening light before the sundown to just crush some miles. And then pulled over and put on warm clothing and got my earplugs in and everything and suited up for the next couple more hours. It's a haul from Yuma to downtown Phoenix, but it's not too bad. And I'm glad I did it when I did, because trying to do that in the morning with the sun in the eyes would not be fun. So anyhow, I'm exhausted. It's time to get some sleep. Tomorrow I'm going to return the motorcycle. Hopefully Robert is not super pissed about the panniers or the scratches.
Feel like I've made it. Here we are in Phoenix. Drop-off point's 15 minutes away. It's not too cold and I skipped rush hour traffic.
I rented this motorcycle and it says 300 miles per day is allowed. I rented it for 7 days, so that means 2,100 mile allowance. I did around 1,500 miles, but it took a brand new motorcycle of 600 miles and now it has 2,000 miles on it. And it's seen like 400 miles of dirt. The back tire is completely worn out. The oil so needs changed. Oh man, that thing just got so hammered. Like I was trying to be as gentle as possible with this thing. I was trying to never ever drop it. I was so bummed it tipped over that time in those rocks.
All right, dripping out. Just washed her as good as I could. Let's go throw away our garbage and hit the road and return this thing after gassing her up.
Full transparency, I was pretty nervous returning this bike. You can see that pannier on the left there is pretty smashed up and it had a crack in it. I told the renter right away what had happened to it, what all the damage was, and went through everything. And to my surprise, he wasn't that worried about it. At this point, I can't remember if I gave him any additional money or not, but I was super relieved that he wasn't freaking out because the transformation this bike went from brand new to full-on desert rat over the course of a week was indeed significant. I don't think I'll ever personally rent my own motorcycles out because of people like me out there that'll ride them a lot and significantly decrease their value, but I'm glad there are other people out there that are willing to rent out their motorcycles. For all of you that watched this video this far, thank you so much. I share a handful of these motorcycle adventure videos a year, and majority of my content's about mountain biking, but I definitely twist some throttles here and there as well. Thank you all again so much. I couldn't be here without all of your support. If you haven't yet, give the Element stuff a shot. It's really good. And hit that subscribe button. Thank you, everyone. Peace and wheelies. I'll see you in the comments.